So thank you so much to our panel, the current initiatives to nudge healthier purchases. This is part one. This is addressing the needs of low-income households. And thank you to our panelists, Elaine Waxman from Feeding America, Laura Vina from Share Our Strength, Peter Clark and Susan Evans from University of Southern California, and Anya Samek, who kindly has agreed to be our discussant from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. So I'm just going to turn it straight over to Elaine.
Good afternoon. I'm Elaine Waxman from Feeding America, and given the title of my organization, it's my job to encourage you to continue eating and enjoying your lunch and take home your leftovers. I wanted to spend a few minutes maybe building a little bit on what you heard this morning. We talked about the various things that affect people's choice architecture, and I think when we're talking about low-income consumers, it's really important for us to remember that there are many other things that are competing for their attention, and when they make choices in the shopping aisle, they're not just about products, but also between other basic needs. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and I think it's helpful because also there's a great deal of overlap between the clients that we serve through the Feeding America Network and also those who are seeking assistance from federal nutrition programs. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about how we're thinking of implementing some of these strategies and behavioral cues in our own work. I think it's particularly helpful if we can all sort of begin to converge around strategies so that individuals are seeing some of the same messages and incentives no matter where they're securing their food, because we know that they're shopping at multiple outlets, and we know that they're coming to us often, and we know that they're eating out. And so the more that we converge, I think, in some incentives, I think the more effective we ultimately may be. So just quickly, in case you're not familiar with the Feeding America Network, we are the network of the majority of food banks in the country. We have more than 200 members. We partner with about 61,000 agencies around the country. So our food banks then work to deliver their services through food pantries, kitchens, shelters, and our most recent count was we serve 37 million Americans. That's 1 in 8 Americans. We will actually be updating that number in about a month. We're just a month too early for me to be able to share our Hunger in America 2014 data. It will come out on August 18th. And for the researchers in the room, a little bit later, there'll be a public use data set that we hope people will be interested in using to look into these issues more. Just quickly, it's the result of 60,000 interviews done through audio computer assist across the country in our feeding agencies. And we reached individuals in 12,000 plus agencies around the country. That data was collected in 2013. It will have a new estimate of the number of clients we typically serve, but also a few other things that I hope you'll look out for next month. We will also update our percentage of clients who are using SNAP and other federal programs. We asked a series of questions for the first time on a variety of coping strategies that clients are using, including a question on whether individuals are purchasing food they know is not healthy for them because of affordability reasons. And also we will be looking at the trend that we noted in 2010 of a more regular use of what we used to call emergency feeding, but has frankly become supplemental feeding strategy for many, many households. We also have a question there about the foods that clients are most interested in receiving from us, and things like whether they're interested in produce or protein or snacks. And for the first time, we'll have information on the number of households who have an individual in them with either hypertension or diabetes, which I think will be a very, very interesting point of discussion for all of us. So when we think about choice architecture, I just want to say a little bit about the trade-offs that low-income individuals are making on a regular basis when they are securing food. One of the things that I think is important to remember is, again, serving so many Americans, we find that people are coming to us on a regular basis. When we looked at our data in 2010, about a third of our clients are what we would call recurrent, and by that definition we meant they were coming at least every month for at least 12 months. And about 54% were coming at least 6 months or more during the prior year. Obviously, we had about 20% who we described as nascent, so they were telling us they were coming for the first time that month, but we don't know what those trajectories look like. Obviously, they were brand new to us at that time. This data was collected right in the thick of the recession, but frankly, we have not seen the rate of food insecurity really let up. So I suspect that some of those early new users joined, unfortunately, the ranks of those who felt they need to seek help on a regular basis. It's important to remember that, at least at the last USDA report, 49 million Americans, which is a lot of shoppers, describe themselves as food insecure. So that's a very important environmental context. Sometimes folks in Washington talk about SNAP or private sector responses, but that's a misnomer because we know that many of our clients are combining strategies in order to get by. At last study in 2010, about 41% of all our clients told us they were receiving SNAP. That's an underestimate, I'm sure, because people do tend to underreport both income and program utilization. But we also know that a very high percentage of them were likely income eligible, although may not have been eligible for other reasons. So we expect, obviously, that number will go up next month in terms of just the overall growth in SNAP. And as well, partly due to that information, we have been very involved in SNAP outreach among our clients. But in essence, many of the folks that I'm talking about here today are the same folks who are using SNAP to shop. And I think what's particularly sobering is that our clients tell us that they trade off on a regular basis between their expenditures on food and other everyday necessities. At the top of the list is utilities, followed by rent or mortgage. Almost half of clients trading off regularly between food budget and trying to accommodate utility bills. I find the one about trading off between food and medicine or medical care on a regular basis particularly concerning, given that we know so much of health morbidity and mortality is related to diet-related disease. If you're trading off between those two things, it's in essence robbing Peter to pay Paul. And it also tells us that people who are struggling with diet-related disease are not going to be very well positioned to manage it. And in fact, we've been running a diabetes intervention in food pantries for the last 3 years on a pilot basis and really seeing very dramatically what that means in people's lives. This is from a different study. This is not just our clients. We did a nationally representative telephone survey of households, oversampling for low-income households, in 2012 in the fall. And this was prompted by a question that's frequently put to us is, well, we know that people come to you for food, but they're also asking for other basic household necessities like toothpaste, like diapers, like laundry detergent, and how does that affect people's needs? And so this is just among the low-income households who reported they were not able to afford some type of those basic household or personal goods. And again, we see a pattern of trade-off just to afford those basic hygiene items. And not surprisingly, of course, people are cutting back regularly on discretionary expenses, but again, we see very similar pattern in terms of in order to afford those really basic household items that people describe to us as really important in terms of being thought of as a good parent, as being able to maintain a healthy household, et cetera, that these are, again, when you're in the shopping aisle, these are the choices that you're making, right? Well, I may not choose certain foods because I know I have to buy diapers at the end of my shopping trip or I have to buy laundry detergent. So we know from clients, both from survey data and from many years of experience, that they're interested in healthier foods. You don't get too many people actually show up in food pantries and say, you know, what I really, really want is, you know, many, many bags of chips. But we know there are multiple barriers. We've been addressing some of our barriers because we're part of the larger food environment, and we struggle with the same things you've heard discussed with manufacturers and retailers because we're subject to what that larger environment looks like. In the last couple of years, we implemented an inventory tracking program that we refer to as Foods to Encourage. It's basically trying to match our inventory against the My Plate categories so that food banks have a better understanding of what's in their mix and how they might improve that. But even so, we know that when trying to give out healthier foods, clients are telling us that these are things that they want and are really excited to get when they come to a food pantry, but they perceive them as unaffordable. And I think we need to remember that. I know there's academic debate about whether healthier foods really are more costly or all healthier foods are more costly, but cost is a multidimensional phenomenon in people's heads, right? And that's been a little bit referred to this morning, but it's the time to travel to get to them. It's the time to prepare. There's a cost in terms of your brain space and your knowledge in doing that, as well as the absolute cost of the item. And we know food budgets are already stretched. There's a piece of data in the current population survey that I think is underutilized, but you can go in and look at in households where individuals describe themselves as food insecure. There's a question that says, well, how much more do you think you would need to afford an adequate diet? And on average, that in 2012, the most recent data, that was $15.82 per person, or about $68 per month. So that's the shortage, right, that people are already going in their brain. And this is a question that's asked of people, presumably accounting for all their resources. So whether or not they're on SNAP, we don't know exactly what goes on in people's heads when they answer those questions, but presumably they're already taking into account the things they have available to them. Again, as I hopefully showed you in some of that data, low-income families have many other competing demands. And so obviously decision fatigue takes on a whole other dimension for many of our clients. And so we're very attracted to some of that work where we would recognize that people are in the space of needing some help to make good choices because there's not really much brain space left when you're doing this level of struggling. We know from giving out food in pantries that lack of knowledge, skills, or tools, and tools meaning, there are a lot of recipes out there that call for zesters and, even a frying pan can be really challenging in some environments. I had talked not too long ago with a mom whose child has extensive allergies and food intolerances, and she talked about how incredibly hard it was to manage that, for her to learn how to purchase and cook, but also when their apartment became in such bad disrepair that they actually had to move into a hotel for a while, she didn't even have cooking facilities to address a child's needs like that. So that's one extreme example, but we see that people often don't know how they could quickly and effectively use many of the things that we give out. We call it the squash problem, but sometimes we'll get, like after Halloween, you wonder where all those pumpkins go. And you wouldn't believe how many recipes we've thought up that will address the use of pumpkins, but then you have to convince people to do that. So just as a wrap-up, I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that we've been trying to pursue to help our clients achieve those goals of healthier eating. Obviously, just getting resources to people through federal benefit outreach has been an important strategy for us. And we also have undertaken a very concerted effort to increase the amount of fresh produce moving through our network, partly because we know it's healthy and partly because there was a lot going to waste out there. And we've really worked to try to open up that channel. About a quarter of all the food we move now is fresh produce. That'll vary by food bank depending on their particular environment. In California, that might be 50%. In some other areas that are very resource poor, it's not going to be that yet. But we are already delivering about 1 billion pounds of produce to our clients a year. And again, partly to help clients support their own goals for healthier eating, but also to help them understand how to use that produce. There's a lot of nutrition education going on in food banks, and we launched in fall 2013 something called the Healthy Food Bank Hub, and it's just healthyfoodbankhub.org, designed to really support those working in the low-income community with resources to support nutrition. So that includes vetted recipes that we've worked on with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. It includes tips for health professionals who are looking at food insecurity and chronic disease. And for those of you who have other materials that you would like to share with individuals working with low-income community, we would love to also be a portal for that. And I'm particularly excited about a new program that we're going to be undertaking with David Just, who you heard from this morning, and the Cornell Center for Behavioral Economics, to test behavioral cues and the ideas behind the behavioral economics for both agencies and clients. So agencies who are selecting and making choices and buying food on behalf of their clients, and the clients themselves. So we will actually be giving grants to food banks to implement those, and then David will be working, and his team will be working with us on an evaluation to understand how those can support better choices. And finally, you'll find food banks sometimes as maybe not usual suspects working on other incentive programs like the Double Up Bucks. We have some food banks who are doing those. And also, as I mentioned, some pilot initiatives around working with individuals who are struggling with both food insecurity and chronic disease. So I hope that gave you a little snapshot of the broader issues that individuals are facing when they're making those healthier food choices or not. And thank you for including us.
Should be right here. Can you just, perfect.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm excited to be following Elaine's great talk. I think that you'll find a lot of similarities in what we're sharing, and also I hope to kind of expound on some of her points as well. And also want to second her call to converge efforts around nudging families who are receiving SNAP benefits to make healthier purchases through a lot of different efforts: access, environmental efforts, and also education efforts. I'm going to spend my time talking about building skills with SNAP participants for making healthier choices within the retail environment, and the importance of these types of skills and how it can really enhance some of these behavioral economic nudges. So I wanted to include, I know we've been talking a lot about research and data, and thought it would be good to provide a snapshot of a SNAP participant. And this is a really good example of the participants that we see in Cooking Matters every day. So this is Larice. She's a busy mother of two, and she's trained as a dental assistant, but she's been off and on employment for the several years. She lives in a rural town in Maryland, and sometimes it's really tough for her to make ends meet. So she utilizes SNAP. She goes on and off SNAP to help her do that. Getting to the grocery store is hard for her. She doesn't have reliable transportation. And sometimes she runs short on groceries before her SNAP benefits run out, or before she's able to get to the store. So we'll come back to her later on. We've already heard, and let's see, and we know that families, all right. So we know that putting healthy meals on the table is something that moms like Larice tell us that they can do more often. And a few years ago, we commissioned a national study of about 1,500 low-income families to understand how they shop for and prepare healthy meals at home. And while we found that access to grocery stores and the quality and variety of foods available at the store were really important barriers for these families, cost was perceived as the biggest barrier for purchasing healthy foods, and Elaine underscored that earlier. But we also know that families who utilize key food skills are able to put healthy dinners on the table more often than those who don't. And so what do we mean by food skills? And I think this is a really important key. So food skills are what you do before you go to the store. Budgeting for food, planning out your meals for the week, making a grocery list. Food skills happen in the store as well. So comparing unit prices when choosing what product or what size product you want to buy, reading food labels, and buying produce in various forms, fresh, frozen, and canned, to stretch those dollars. And then also food skills happen in the home and in the kitchen. So they can be using proper knife skills, thinking about how to incorporate foods that you already have to substitute for a recipe that you might want to make, or stretching leftovers and turning them into different meals for your family. So just a little bit of context about Share Our Strength and Cooking Matters and kind of how we got into the food skills business. Share Our Strength runs a No Kid Hungry campaign that really seeks to end childhood hunger by pairing access to food with education about food. This combined approach helps us surround kids with healthy food that they need every day. And we're helping to do that by connecting children with access to nutrition programs like school breakfast and summer meals. And we're also teaching their parents these food skills that can help them stretch their food dollars, stretch their SNAP and their WIC benefits, and also make more meals at home and make sure that those meals are healthy. Cooking Matters is our direct service education branch of the No Kid Hungry campaign, and it's split up into two different interventions. We have 6-week cooking courses that we provide to low-income families across the country through community agencies. And these are courses that are taught by chef and nutrition instructors, and where participants really get hands-on experience building those food skills. We have classes for adults, for teens, for kids, and for families, which is my personal favorite, where a parent and a kid take a class together and learn how parents and kids can cook in the kitchen and stretch those food dollars. And then we also have Cooking Matters at the Store grocery tours. And this is a newer intervention that was created, kind of pulled from the courses. And these are 1-hour facilitator-led grocery store tours that teach 4 key food skills. We also have the curricula for WIC parents as well, a specialized curricula that really focuses on that fruit and vegetable voucher and how to maximize that benefit. Cooking Matters has been growing in reach, so we're in most states. We're reaching over 30,000 folks with our courses, and this year around 60,000 through these tours. We partner on a national level with the National Head Start Association, with some WIC clinics, and we partner a lot with community-level organizations as well. So we're trying a lot of different approaches, both grassroots and national partnerships, to really scale up this intervention and also at the same time learn what works and be iterative about improving the intervention as well. So, focusing in on food skills at the store. And our nutrition education philosophy at Cooking Matters is really focused around skills. What skills can you teach families so that they can use it in a way that considers how they really eat and how they live? So we always want to take into account where low-income families are shopping for food. Food skills, the ones that we teach in Cooking Matters at the store, can be applied in a supermarket. They can be applied at a corner store. They can be applied at a mega retailer. We want to take into account how people make food decisions. So it's been mentioned before today, people don't just make food decisions at the store based on nutritional value. Actually, they usually never, rarely do. But they do make decisions based on taste, based on price, and based on what they think their family will eat or what their family wants to eat. And then also maximizing resources. So knowing that the folks who are going through our tours are receiving SNAP and WIC benefits, being able to speak to that and ensuring that facilitators can talk about benefits usage and the maximization and the importance of maximizing those benefits. So we have simple materials and tools. I spoke a little bit about how we're really learning and growing as a program and some of the iterations that we've taken on as a result of that. So we did a process evaluation a couple of years ago, realized through surveying of instructors across the country and participants some tweaks that we could make to our materials. So we have participant booklets that are small. They look like little magazines. They're easy to take to and from the store if folks would want that, but they're also really attractive and they reinforce my plate as well. And we also have flip books. I have some later if anyone wants to see them for the instructors. So little note cards on like a ringed binder, so that and they're all sectioned out by grocery store sections. So you can move around, facilitators can move around the flip cards and the talking points based on how they decide they want to take participants along on the tour, which is usually based on how the grocery store is set up where they are. And they also have very, very streamlined talking points and messages and examples of how to demonstrate skills within the store as well. So want to focus on some of the 4 skills that we teach and want to iterate that these skills we chose these skills because they are easy to learn, they're easy to implement, and they can be implemented in multiple sections of the store. So the first one, comparing unit prices. How many of you guys compare unit prices when at the store? Or no? All right, most of you. That's good considering the group here. I should hope so. But unit prices, again, are the price per unit, which is underneath the retail price. So price per ounce, price per pound. So we really teach where to find that in the store and how to use it to compare across sizes of the same product or across brands, really focusing in on what is the better buy, and then having a conversation with folks. You may buy the bigger container because it is cheaper per ounce, but will you be able to use that? Are you going to save what you're going to freeze or save what you're not using? If not, that waste may end up not being the right budget buy. So really talking through where people are, where their families are, and making sure that they can utilize this skill appropriately. Identifying whole grains. So using this skill is around using the ingredient list to identify and confirm whether or not a grain product is a whole grain product. So we teach our participants not to rely solely on what is on the front of package label or the color of the bread, which oftentimes can trick a lot of families of all types. But to look at that first ingredient on the ingredient list and identify whether that's a whole grain. So we'll learn that in the bread aisle, but we'll also reinforce that in the cereal and the cracker and cookie aisle too. Reading food labels, and I know this has also been brought up a couple of times today already. The food label is on the path to improvement, we hope, but to teach this skill in a 1-hour lesson takes some really tailored messaging. So we really focus on serving size per container, and then we focus on sugars, when we're in, say, the juice aisle, or when we're in the yogurt aisle, so comparing flavored yogurts to plain yogurts and the sugar content there. Sodium, we'll focus on that when we're in the packaged food section or the soup section, so that when folks are buying those shelf-stable foods, they're keeping an eye on what that sodium content is. So really, again, targeting that skill to the particular section of the grocery store, and also what our participants are buying, and what types of foods typically go in their carts. And then the fourth skill is identifying multiple ways to buy produce on a budget. So that is encouraging the purchasing of all forms of produce, fresh, frozen, canned, and dried. We talk about the pros and the cons of all of them in terms of storage, shelf life, taste, preference, and really encourage folks to combine all of those forms to get the most out of their food budgets as well. So, and we found that teaching these food skills at the store works, and folks are employing these food skills after they've taken this 1-hour tour. Last year, we conducted an evaluation in collaboration with the Altair Institute, both a process and an impact evaluation. Because we're growing so rapidly, we want to understand what the fidelity of this program is across all these different sites, and also what the impact is. Are people utilizing food skills 6 weeks after taking this 1-hour tour? Oh, got a little cut off there. Well, we found that it works. We found that participants on the whole are buying more fruits and vegetables 6 weeks after taking the tour. We found that both with self-report data along with a receipt collection that we did as well to really to look at the frequency and types of fruits and vegetables purchased after taking the tour. We found that folks are employing the skills, and that they're reporting that they're able to stretch their budgets a little bit more and purchasing more healthy foods as well. And we found that we also found that specifically with SNAP participants, they were more likely to find the skills to be new, the information to be newer to them, and they were able to recall the skills that were taught during the tour at a higher rate than non-SNAP participants, which was encouraging as well. So I guess in closing, since my slides are gone, just to give you the cliffhanger of Larice, who we left off with. After the tour, Larice was really able to stretch her food dollars. She and her daughter now compare labels when they're choosing juices and sodas. They're looking at sugar content. And she's also able to buy more fruits and vegetables for the same amount of money that she was spending before, which I think is worth underlining. And I would say that, you know, the story of Larice and all of the folks that we serve at Cooking Matters and Cooking Matters at this store really demonstrates the demand for food skills with this population, as well as the power of providing a few key skills to these folks. And also the importance of building food literacy for all of our families across this country. And I think that effective food skills education and nutrition education at the right time and the right place, and coupled with environmental changes, behavioral economic nudges, and a lot of the other great incentives and a lot of the other great work that's been going on within our community, our collective community, can really help drive change. So I really encourage further collaboration and research that combines a lot of these different interventions to see what the collective effect really can be. So thanks.
Hi, we're a bit of a tag team match. We're going to talk to you this afternoon about our work in food pantries. And this began a couple of decades ago when we started working with food banks around the country, which at the time were not sourcing or distributing significant amounts of fresh produce. And over the course of 20 years, we were able to convert almost 160 food banks into places that source significant amounts of fresh produce locally, as well as from regional and from national sources. And this was all good news. But it failed to address the problems on the consumer side, and that's why the first image we want to show you here is of a pantry line. There are some 33,000 places like this in the country, which is twice the number of Starbucks, where people go to get free food. And the problem that they face, as we very quickly learned, is that they get a mystery bag in most of these places. They don't shop for food like you and I do in a store. They get a standardized bag. And so the big problem that they face is that they don't know what they're going to get, and often they get quantities of it that are very difficult to manage. And as we followed them home and began to study their life circumstances in greater detail, we learned that a lot of this food was going to waste simply because they didn't know what to do with it. And many people have a very, very narrow repertoire, and this is not only of low-income people, but all of us have very, very narrow repertoires of things that we know to cook and to prepare. And so the family was getting pretty sick and tired of carrots after they were shredded in salads for 3 days running, or maybe just chopped up and boiled in a pot. Our first approach was to understand that the only thing that pantry clients really have in common is they don't have money. Beyond that, they vary all over the map. They have different kitchen utensils, they have different family compositions, they have different tastes for food, they have different experiences with vegetables. And so in creating a tool to help them make use of fresh produce, we quickly understood that we had to customize information on the individual by individual basis. And this was our first solution, which is a tablet computer-based tool that pantry volunteer uses. He collaborates with the pantry client, answering a few short questions about their food needs and food tastes. And at the end of that, about 3 minutes later, out comes a color PDF, customized set of recipes and food use tips that responds to just that pantry client's immediate needs. Okay, the good news is that this, in the week following, compared to handing people a standardized recipe book of all of the recipes and the tips that we had, resulted in a 40% increase in the use of fresh vegetables in the households that got the customized information compared to the standardized information. That's the good news. The bad news is that this can't go to scale. There aren't enough pantry volunteers to do this, and there aren't enough open pantry hours for volunteers to interrogate each client as he or she comes in individually. So we knew very quickly we had to go to mobile technology, and we had to offload the profiling of what the client's needs were to the client, him or herself. And so now Susan is going to describe for you the mobile phone app that we've developed to accomplish this. You don't need to, and we're going to have to go through some slides very, very quickly, but the good news is you don't have to take notes. We've got a one-pager here that those of you who are interested in this app are welcome to take.
Great. So we'll go through what the app looks like. There are two different parts of it. Here's our splash page called Veggie Book, Quick Help for Meals. And everything we already have, which is a lot of content, is already in English and Spanish. I'll only show you the English, but here you see that our app is designed so that when people are standing in line and they hear, okay, today's a broccoli day, they can actually go through the app and figure out what they can do with broccoli, or if it's a cauliflower day, or if it's a zucchini day, because that's their problem. Their problem is they're standing in line at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're going to get 12 zucchini, and they have to have dinner on the table for their family by 5:30. So they just punch in zucchini, and then these are 5 screens, and these are what our self-profiling screens are. And what they do, all of these questions came out of many series of focus groups over many years, and these are the major vectors by which our pantry clients sort of divide in terms of the kind of information they want. So we ask them if they want, if they want recipes for a microwave or a crock pot or a steamer. And the fact of the matter is, if people don't have a microwave, they don't want microwave recipes. If they don't have a crock pot, they don't want crock pot recipes. They just want what they have and what they can use. And they understand that they are in complete control of this. They are choosing the recipes that they're going to get. Others, it's hard to read up here. Do you want recipes that are kid-friendly? Do you want recipes that use meat or chicken? Or do you want recipes with Latino flavors or Asian flavors? Do you want recipes on how to make baby food for children over 6 months? Do you want recipes and tips for a family member who may have diabetes? Do you want storage information, which is very important to them because they often get a lot of one thing, so preserving the product is very important. So those are the 5 screens, and after that screen appears, they will then get the exact recipes that our system has pulled down from them, because they may have said, yeah, I want kid-friendly or I want Latino flavors, but they don't know what they're going to get. And so here's in English and Spanish exactly what our recipes look like. You can see here broccoli burritos, and then there are the ingredients, and if you scroll, the instructions are right there. And then they get to keep or drop each one. So they are massively in control of what's going on here. Same thing in the Spanish version, and in this particular version, this client, this was the 7th of 15 recipes that came up. Then, when this is a very important psychological point that we've discovered, and that is after they've kept or dropped all of the recipes, they're now going to assemble their booklet. But before they do that, I have to tell you that this is designed so that their veggie book will be on the app, but it will also be printed in color at the pantry for them. Okay, so they're getting 2 versions of it. After they've kept or dropped all of their recipes, they get this screen, and it says, you can print an extra copy of any recipe that they've saved, and those what those thumbnails are, to give to a family member or friend. Just touch a recipe for an extra copy, and you can see in this one in the upper left, a zucchini soup has been touched, and so there's a check mark there, and underneath that, baked zucchini and chicken has been touched. And so when it prints, they will get an extra copy of those recipes. And this stage is especially important because we found in a number of experiments that we've done, when you can get people to start thinking about other people in their social network and become the person who actually gives another recipe, your own cooking goes up in the following weeks. So we offer that. Then what we do is we say, okay, we're getting close. Now you have to choose a cover for your veggie book. And the choices are, you can take a photo now, and well over 40% of the people decide to take a picture of themselves or their children. You can use a photo from the camera roll on the phone, or you can choose a picture from below, and we have a variety of stock photos that we've tested over and over and over. And the vegetable, a cornucopia, Jesus, Virgin de Guadalupe. After taking a picture of self, the most compelling and the second most popular image for the cover actually is Jesus. And so this is what the client's customized covers look like in the print version. It has the name of the vegetable with that up in the corner. It has recipes and tips chosen by Carmen. Here's an English and Spanish version. So it has their name on it. It has an image that they have chosen, either of themselves or their children or Jesus, and it has the name of the pantry at which they are doing this. It has nothing about USC. It has a Service of Our Savior Center or whatever pantry they're doing. So you can see that these are really customized, and these become very sacred objects in the home, and clients do not throw these recipe books away. And they also have it on the phone. This is what a print recipe looks like, zucchini with noodles. So you can see the graphic form has been tested over and over and over, and we can tell you about that if anybody's interested. This is what it looks like if you're cooking from the phone. In our trials, we've just completed some pilot studies. We have to do a randomized controlled trial. We lend families phone. For the pilot, it was for 7 weeks. For the randomized control, it'll be for 6 months. We give them a $2 stand, and so they actually cook from the phone and can just scroll up. There's one of our popular sloppy joes with lots of cabbage in it. And so that's the recipe side of it. The other side of the app that we have is full of 85 behavioral nudges, what we're talking about today. And this is called Secrets for Better Eating. We have breakfast secrets, lunch secrets, dinner secrets, snack secrets, and shopping secrets. And there are 85 of these. And we'll just show you a few of these as you go through. This is what it looks like. On the phone, I'll show you here. So here is a breakfast secret. Measure food into 1 serving portion sizes. And so you can see that we're showing how to do that with a cereal that's not supposed to look like Raisin Bran, but, you know, whatever. And then it says you might be surprised at 1 serving really looks like. And so all of these are illustrated in color, and they all have a scroll down that says why it works, and we give them a little bit of the psychology of why this actually works. It turns out we've done studies, and 80% of the people actually want the why it works. And as with the recipes, here you can see up in the corner that you can email any of these tips, any of these recipes. You can text them. You can, Instagram. You can do all that stuff with all of these, and people are doing it in a big way. Another example: dinner secrets. Preserve dinner time calm by banning electronic devices during the meal. Another of these are all no-cost nudges to get people to shop better and have better meal planning and more psychologically comforting and enjoyable meals. Snack secret: write calorie counts on the front of packages of less healthy snack foods. And so you can see this person here is putting on, 12 chips equals 160 calories, exclamation point. Another bunch of these are buffet diner, be a selective eater, try to limit buffets and all you can eat, and we explain why that's the case. Be an alert shopper, look for deals on shelves above or below eye level. We've heard about this from retailers and from others. Look above and below. Help your family with portion control. Here's one that people really are surprised at. And this image, it says, it's hard to read from far away, it says, put food on plates in the kitchen or on a counter, then bring the plates to the table. If someone asks for more food, take the plate back and add more food. In other words, no family dining, none of that kind of thing. Here is a breakfast secret. Prepare weekend breakfast with your kids. Again, illustrated. The illustrations are full of children. They're full of families. They're full of men doing things. They're very ethnically diverse, and they've been very, very, very popular and effective with our client base. And finally, just a couple other examples. Try not to shop when you're hungry. Well, that's easy to say, but we tell them if you shop when you're hungry, you'll probably buy more than you need. And in this one, we talk about, at the checkout counter, my daughter, there's a testimonial here and says, my daughter always got hungry, so now I have a little bag of raisins, and so when we get to the checkout counter, I'm prepared. And finally, I want to show you that in a number of our secrets, we have links to other curated sites on the web. So we actually are encouraging people to go in that direction and do that. And, you can even see there's a USDA site we send people to and so forth. So there's that on the site as well. When they have a whole booklet combined, this is what it would look like on their phone. That's a breakfast booklet. We also print it out for them as well. These are what the printed ones look like by generics. Be a careful shopper. And it says additional information, short video about shopping for generics, lots of information for them. And then finally, in some of them, we say if you get this tip, and there's a dinner tip, we say we'll also print out for you a special dinner planner, another nudge, and it's just a sheet of paper like this. And what we urge people to do is get together around the table and make public commitments about what they're going to do for dinner. And, people check it off, and then we encourage them to put it on their refrigerator, and we even have magnets, and we have them choose which color magnets they like. So there's lots of choice throughout this. So another nudge in that direction.
So here you see a couple of images of our team training moms and kids to how to use the phone and how to use the app in a pantry. And it's very significant, we have found, to join these two family members. First of all, it builds computer skills in the home, and second, it inspires more talk about food between parents and their kids. Just want to leave you with two observations. One is, this is really, I think, the brunt of our contribution today is to sketch for you ways in which information design can be used to deliver nudges toward preferred behavior. One is to invite users to help construct the message themselves, to customize the content, to individualize the output, to let them decorate the output with treasured symbols. Second is to invoke self-generated social norms. That's the whole business behind giving people a chance to give extra copies of things. And third, illustrate the main behavioral points that lead toward the action that you're looking for. We've got some very preliminary data from pilot studies. We don't have time to go into them here, but it's immensely encouraging, and we wanted to share that fact with all of you. Thank you very much.